Hi everyone and welcome back to Butchery 101. I'm Christina Glenoga and today we're going to talk about making some amazing, delicious, crispy pork skin from lovely local pork. Don't forget to tap that subscribe button for me. So this pork roast was a gift from a lovely farm by the name of Bright-Eyed Acres. They're located near Ording, Washington. I've known them for a few years now, and I super adore their entire operation. I visited their farm recently and met their super happy, super sweet animals, and it was really nice to see how well they were taken care of and truly like how much natural behavior that the animals are allowed to engage in, which is when we think about animal welfare, that's the kind of stuff that we want to see. And wonderful news, their pork processor got a scalder recently. That means that they're one of the only small conscientious pork producers who can provide skin-on pork cuts. That's significant because most of the time when you see skin-on pork, it'll often be from like industrial sources, which if that's where you're getting your skin-on pork cuts, no shade, but I just want y'all to know that this is available and is becoming more available as more processors get scalders on hand. I love crispy pork skin. I love it so much. I think it's so delicious. And if y'all don't know, crispy pork skin is truly one of the greatest wonders and like major joys of humanity. I am someone that loves textures when eating, and pork skin is the perfect vessel for that kind of like savory, umami, salty, crunchy experience. Plus, the flavor is truly so wonderful. And also, the amount of collagen in there is really, really good for your hair, nails, and skin. So, heads up. I just want to offer a couple words of encouragement and caution, actually. Admittedly, in the footage you are about to see, I did pretty much all of the super extra things to make this skin extremely crispy, just the way I like it. Largely because I was so excited for the opportunity to do this with such nice pork. Truly, it is rare to find skin-on pork cuts of like such high quality pork. But that doesn't mean that you have to do every single thing that I did in this video. You can pick and choose any number of the techniques that we show in this video, mix and match what works for you in your kitchen and your personal life, and just give them a try. The other nice thing about getting like a pork share, that is to say buying a lot of pork from a local small producer, is that you would have many opportunities to try recreating this amazing meal. And remember, it's all a process. The more you try it out, the better you'll get at it. Even an imperfect pork roast would still be delicious and wonderful, especially if you're buying from a farmer like Bright-Eyed Acres, who have done plenty of the work to ensure a delicious eating experience. When you want to achieve crispy skinned goodness, you need just a couple of things. One, the drier the skin, the better. Moisture is definitely the enemy of crispiness. Think like your breakfast cereal or dipping cookies in milk, or the fries that get soggy at the bottom of the bag. Number two is that you want low, slow cooking time. Again, this also helps with the dryness. And then finally, you really want to finish high. That is to say, I really like to finish any of my crispy pork projects under a broiler because that will help make up for any soggy or under-crisped parts. So all of the techniques that I show you today will aim at achieving these things. And when you're trying to fit these techniques into your kitchen and real life, but need to make decisions on your own, do the version that gets you closer to these three principles, and I promise it'll get you closer to your preferred level of crispy goodness. And again, just keep trying. I believe in you. Let's talk about this particular cut and why it's such a great option to make crispy pork skin with. This is a bone-in shoulder chop with lots of marbling and intermuscular fat. These are working muscles, so there's lots of flavor in there, and a good amount of connective tissue considering how much work that those shoulders did. All that is to say is that the shoulder meat will do very well under the slow cooking methods that we're using to achieve the crispy skin. As opposed to like maybe loin or tenderloin, which is so lean that it'll dry out with this kind of cooking method and would be better suited for like a quick cooking method. I'm also really stoked that there are bones in this cut. They'll contribute a lot of flavor to the roast, and also when you see the carving footage, you'll see that it wasn't really a problem at all to have the bones in there until the end. After the roast, I put these bones into a Sunday gravy just a few days later, and it was super bomb, let me just tell you. Let me know in the comments what you put in your Sunday gravy. Hey team, we'll get back to the crispy pork skin video in just a minute, but first, I wanted to quickly let y'all know about some super exciting projects coming up. We're offering private poultry butchery classes for those who want to break down their turkeys this year, and general holiday consultations so I can help you have the best, most delicious, and functional holiday season ever. All of these and more are available via Tock, linked in the description below. I also want to take a moment to thank our Patreons. Y'all enable and empower Butchery 101 so much. There's a $10 per month level that keeps the lights on and the iPhone rolling over here, but there's also a couple higher level tiers that get amazing benefits. The Meat Nerd level Patreon gets a monthly virtual one-on-one meat consultation so I can help y'all work through all your at-home meaty pursuits. Think of me as your personal partner in meaty crime. Check it out, my Patreon is linked below. You can also support Butchery 101 via GoFundMe. Go ahead and donate in someone's name to give them the gift of supporting a woman of color butchery educator. And now, back to the show. Like I said, the drier the skin, the better. So we're gonna pop this baby onto a rack and a pan over some salt, and then let it hang out in the fridge uncovered for about 5 days. This will achieve two things. One, the drier skin will get crispier, and then two, a dry-ish meat surface, often called a pellicle, will sear absolutely beautifully. This is actually a really great way to ensure an excellent sear on any steak or braising cut, and so I actually like to do this with almost all of my meat, and so that actually makes the investment in a good pan and drying rack situation that much more worth it. I also like to put a thin but even layer of salt in the bottom of the pan to sterilize any moisture that runs off of the roast and mitigate any ambient humidity in the fridge. Ultimately, this helps a lot with reducing the risk of spoilage. And again, if you don't have 5 whole days to let this roast hang out in your fridge, even overnight will make a huge difference. I'm also going to rub the entire roast down with a bunch of kosher salt. That'll achieve two things. Salt is a desiccant, and so both the skin and the surface of the meat will get drier, again, helping us achieve that dry surface. And then it'll also act as a dry brine, slightly seasoning and tenderizing the meat. In fact, I probably could have used a little sugar or other flavorings with the salt to flavor the meat surface, but currently I'm trying to avoid adding additional sugar to most of my food. Plus, knowing that I'll eventually be broiling this skin in order to achieve peak crispiness, sugar might actually over caramelize. Although, now that I'm saying it, that kind of sounds super bomb, so I might actually try that out someday. If you try your roast out with sugar, let me know. The surface, when it's in the fridge and drying out, will get dark and dry looking, and will even be dry to the touch after just a couple days. You want it to approach looking like jerky, almost. It shouldn't sit in any moisture, and it shouldn't smell like anything but pork and whatever flavorings you decided to use for your rub. And after 5 days, there really shouldn't be any mold on there. If there is, or if there's anything else sketchy going on, cut that part off and then rub the rest of the whole thing down with vodka to disinfect. I'm also going to score the skin just enough to expose the fat, but not very much into the fat itself. In this context, the scoring of the skin is more about helping us break the skin apart after cooking, but it does also mitigate the size of the bubbles that form during the high heat finish. So even if you're not gonna do the multi-day chill step, it'll still be helpful to score the skin. Make sure to do it before the drying process though, because pork skin really does get hard to cut after it dries for a while. This was my first time trying out a dedicated razor blade, which worked amazingly. You can use any super sharp knife you have in the kitchen, but I really loved the experience of using a razor blade on it for a couple of reasons. The sharpness really does help with getting through that tough skin, which was a huge help. And then also being able to hold your hand that close to the roast as you're cutting, because like the razor blade is only like yay big, right? Being able to hold it that close to the roast meant that I had a ton of control and could have really straight and even lines and even depth of the cut. Now that the drying, seasoning, and scoring stuff is all done, after about 5 days of it, it was time to cook her off. I heated up my cast iron pan to ripping hot in order to best sear the meat surfaces. Again, getting that pellicle, aka dry meat surface, is a great move for pretty much anything you're searing. Once all the sides are seared, including that little edge, I'm popping my little roast into a baking dish and sliding it into a cold oven. This is another one of those like completely optional but like kind of extra steps, but I did it because this particular baking dish that I used does best when heating with the oven. Plus, starting the roast in the oven allows the meat and skin to come more slowly up to temperature, which means more rendering and crispier skin. I only took the oven to about 300 degrees Fahrenheit. My goal was to achieve an internal temp on the meat anywhere between 160 to 185 degrees Fahrenheit for like as long as possible. That's because that's the temperature range generally where collagen melts into gelatin, and that yields that unctuous tenderness that we love from our slow cooked meats. And it's also not so hot that the proteins like seize up and get dry and tough. So I kept an eye on the oven temp, lowering it and raising it as needed to maintain that ideal internal roast temp for about 4 hours. It took about 90 minutes to get all the way up to temp at the beginning, but from then you just kind of play the thermostat as needed. Generally, when slow cooking meat, you can achieve tenderness with about 1 hour of low cooking per inch of thickness. So this would have been tender enough after about 2 or 3 hours, but I just wanted to make sure. Plus, we're shooting for crispy skin here, and the longer it's in the oven, the drier / crispier it'll get. So now we've cooked the meat and primed the skin as much as we want, and now it's time to really finish off the crispy skin. I pulled the roast out of the oven while preheating the broiler, and at this point, we're essentially toasting a marshmallow. Be careful with what tools you use for balancing the roast just right to get even heat exposure for all of the skin you want to puff up, but all we're looking at here is having enough patience to kneel in front of your oven and hold the skin close enough to your broiler to crisp it up. Again, this is definitely an extra moment for sure, but it really does yield amazingly crispy skin. And you can do it for any skin on cut, even if it's just a slab of pork skin on its own. And now let's take a look at the glorious results. So this roast fed me for about 3 days. I tried offering some to my partner, but his eating needs that week didn't align, and so that's totally okay with me because I got to have so much more of this baby to myself. I had it on rice bowls, but we totally could have made tacos or lettuce wraps from it, and I already told you all about the Sunday gravy. A move I'm really stoked on is taking any extra large chunks of crispy skin and chopping them up and using it as glorious crispy porky sprinkle on everything. Or you can just dip some in a vinegar and garlic sauce like any good Filipino would. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope this helps you achieve delicious, crispy pork skin in your own kitchen. Again, y'all don't have to do every single step or method shown in the video here, but please do try them out in your own ways. And I would love to see the results. If you are so lucky and can do it, I highly recommend going to your local farmer's market and finding a farmer like Bright Eyed Acres, or even just going to Bright Eyed Acres directly to find really amazing skin on pork cuts. If you do try this stuff out and you do social media, please tag me in your posts about your wonderful crispy pork skin, and I would love to, because I would love to see them. And even if you have questions as you go along the way, please don't hesitate to hit me up. Finally, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll try to get back on live streaming here in the near future, and hopefully we'll be consistently uploading soon. Stuff has just been really crazy lately, and I'm sitting on like a lot of really awesome footage from the rest of summer, and I would love to share it with y'all. So make sure to hit subscribe and like this video if you did enjoy it or found any use in it. And I would love for y'all to be on the ride as we continue our butchery education. Again, this has been Butchery 101. I'm Christina Glenoga, and I hope y'all have a good one. Bye!